Have you felt something shift, but can't explain why? Are you waking up with tears, sensing a presence that hasn't returned, yet somehow feels closer than ever? The silence is deafening, and yet your heart is louder than it's ever been. You're not imagining things. You're not broken. You're standing at the edge of something sacred. But what is it? Why does it feel like your soul is speaking, even when nothing in your world is moving? In today's video, we'll help you decode the mystery behind that inner pressure, the dreams that linger, the calm that feels unnatural. You'll discover why union doesn't begin with a conversation. It begins with energy, with a soul-level stirring that enters your body long before the physical reunion occurs. This isn't about chasing signs. It's about recognizing the truth your body already knows. That reunion energy arrives in your field before it knocks on your door. By the end of this video, you won't just understand the silence, you'll respect it. You'll no longer see the stillness as emptiness, but as preparation. You'll begin to trust the quiet way your soul remembers what your mind tries to forget. You'll feel empowered to return to yourself fully, knowing that this inner magnetic alignment is not only pulling you home, it's pulling him too. If you're ready to explore the language of reunion that begins before words, stay with us until the end. Like, share and subscribe to Spiritual Universe to support this journey. And if this video speaks to you, type "My soul knows" before the world does in the comments to affirm your truth. Your path to union may be silent, but it is sacred, and you're not walking it alone. Number 1. The first stirring, the invisible alignment. It never begins the way you think it will. There is no sudden knock at the door, no dramatic confession, no moment where everything makes perfect sense. Instead, it begins with something far more subtle, something sacred and silent. A weight settles in your chest, almost imperceptible at first, like the whisper of a storm on the horizon. And then come the dreams, vivid, tender, drenched in emotion. You wake with tears streaming down your face, unable to explain why. Nothing seems to have changed outwardly, and yet deep within, everything feels different. You start to notice a shift, not in him, but in yourself. The connection that once felt loud, intense, or overwhelming now softens into a quiet presence. It's not gone, it's circling back. Not in desperation, not in longing, but in truth. You're no longer clinging, no longer chasing. You've surrendered, and in that sacred release, something miraculous begins to unfold. Your chest tightens with a knowing that words cannot reach. Your breath grows short, not from anxiety, but from the closeness of something you can't yet see, only feel. He is near. But this nearness isn't measured in miles or messages, it's measured in vibration. You feel him not because you're still grasping onto the past, but because you finally return to the present. And that return, that deep-rooted anchoring back into your own energy, is the real catalyst. It's not about trying harder. It's not about doing more. Alignment doesn't come from force. It arrives when you stop running from yourself. It's born in the stillness you once feared and the self-acceptance you now embody. And then, without warning, the field begins to respond. Energy starts to shift. The invisible currents that bind souls across lifetimes begin to stir. The universe moves, not in reaction to your effort, but in celebration of your release. What you feel is real. What you sense is not your imagination. It's alignment, the invisible thread pulling everything back into place, one breath, one heartbeat at a time. Before we move into the next stage of this unfolding journey, take a moment to pause and reflect. Have you felt this invisible alignment in your own life? Have there been moments when the silence spoke louder than words? When your heart responded before your mind could understand? We invite you to share your experience in the comments below, whether it's a memory, a dream, or simply a feeling that wouldn't let go. Or, if you're not sure how to put it into words, just type "My soul remembers" as a quiet affirmation that you're tuned in to this sacred shift. Your story may be the spark that helps someone else feel seen. Let's move forward together. Number 2. The body knows before the mind understands. Before words are spoken, before thoughts form meaning, the soul begins to whisper, and the body listens. This is how true alignment unfolds. It doesn't arrive through logic or plans, but through sensations that defy reason. Suddenly, you find yourself waking up at odd hours with your heart racing or tears drying on your cheeks. You can't explain the exhaustion you feel even after a full night's rest. You're swept into emotional waves that seem to have no origin. But these aren't random or misplaced. They're signs, sacred markers that reunion energy is beginning to rise. He hasn't called. He hasn't appeared. But somehow, his presence feels closer than ever. You don't see him with your eyes, but you feel him in your breath, your dreams, and in the quietest corners of your life. He shows up not with words, but with frequencies, an energetic pull that your body responds to without needing permission from your mind. You begin to understand that you're not longing for him anymore. You're not waiting. You're realigning. This shift isn't about hope. It's about knowing. Your field is expanding to receive what has always been destined. While your heart anchors into deeper truths, his energy begins to move toward you, not through understanding, but through soul memory. The divine masculine may not be consciously aware of what's happening yet, but something inside him is stirring. Something deep, ancient, and undeniable. He is being pulled by a force he cannot name, while you are being rooted in a love that no longer chases, but simply receives. This is not the beginning of the story. It's the return. And your body, that sacred temple of truth, always knows before your mind can comprehend. Trust it. Let it guide you. Because before any reunion occurs in the physical, it arrives first in the body, subtle, sacred, and real. Number 3. Signs of return. Dreams, numbers, and sacred tension. When the divine begins to move, it rarely speaks in direct lines or obvious words. Instead, it whispers through symbols, through numbers that repeat until they demand your attention, through lyrics that seem to play just when your heart needs them most, through timelines that stretch and bend, echoing a deeper rhythm only your soul understands. And as this sacred current flows, you begin to notice the signs. His name flashes on a screen. His birthday appears on a receipt. A song you both loved starts playing in a place you've never been. These are not coincidences. They are coordinates, reminders, evidence that something is aligning beyond what the eye can see. And then come the dreams. Not the ones that leave you aching, but the ones that open your heart. These dreams are different. They don't beg for the past to return. They don't plead for answers. Instead, they unveil a deeper truth. You see him not in the shadows of who he was, but in the light of who he is becoming. The energy is no longer wrapped in longing. It's wrapped in knowing. It's a recognition. His energy moves through you like a familiar current, soft, magnetic, undeniable. And your body, the sacred translator of divine frequency, begins to feel both heavy and weightless at once, as if remembering a story your mind has yet to fully grasp. What's shifting isn't just in you, it's in him. The divine masculine is awakening, not through logic or planning, but through presence, through silence, through the unbearable truth that something is missing. And it's not your words or your effort that call him back. It's your absence. But not the absence rooted in pain or punishment. This absence radiates truth. It radiates alignment. It tells the story of a woman who no longer waits, but lives in her fullness. And that fullness is what his soul cannot ignore. He feels the void not as loss, but as invitation. An invitation to rise, to return, to remember. So if you're seeing signs, if the dreams are returning, if the numbers are speaking, if your body feels caught in sacred tension, trust it. These are not illusions. They are awakenings in disguise. The reunion is not a future event. It's already unfolding in the space between your silence and his soul's response. Imagine this. You're standing in line at a quiet cafe you've never visited before. You're not thinking about him, not actively. You've let go in all the ways that matter. Yet suddenly, a song begins to play overhead. Your song, the one that used to echo through long drives and late-night conversations. You glance at the receipt in your hand and notice the total, $11.11. Just before you leave, you hear someone behind you mention his name, not in conversation with you, but as if the universe had planted it there for only your ears to catch. You feel a familiar flutter in your chest, not of yearning, but of recognition. Later that night, you dream of him again, but he's different, calmer, more present. He doesn't say much, but you feel peace instead of pain. That's when it clicks. This isn't your longing resurfacing. It's the field realigning. These aren't just signs to chase. They're signals that your energy has shifted, that he's starting to feel your absence as an awakening, and you, finally, are living in your truth. Number 4. The sacred pause. Not waiting, but becoming. This journey was never meant to teach you patience in the traditional sense. It was never about counting the days, watching the phone, or anxiously reading signs as if they were clues to some grand arrival. This path has always been about transformation, about becoming the version of you who no longer waits because she has already arrived. You see, reunion is not something you chase, it's something you embody. It is not a finish line you run toward, but a frequency you rise into. As you grow more aligned with your own truth, the energy around you begins to respond. You stop asking when he'll return and start living as though the connection already exists in its highest form. You stop seeking the next sign and instead realize you are the sign. Your very presence becomes the proof that love still exists, that union is possible, that healing is happening. Your coherence with your soul changes the entire field. And while you stand in your wholeness, grounded and radiant, something begins to stir in him. He feels it, the unraveling, the walls he built to suppress your memory, the logic he leaned on to justify the distance, the distractions he once clung to. They begin to collapse, not because you're reaching out, not because you're waiting, but because you're no longer a concept he can ignore. You are no longer a dream he can dismiss. You have become the mirror he cannot look away from. And in that mirror, he doesn't see fantasy or illusion. He sees what he ran from all along, not a romanticized version of you, but the raw, undeniable truth of your connection. The truth of himself, the truth of love stripped bare. And in this sacred pause, you are not idle. You are powerful. You are remembering who you are. And in doing so, you awaken the part of him that can no longer forget you. If you've made it this far, it means something in your soul recognized the truth in these words. Take a moment to breathe that in. This journey is not about waiting for someone to return. It's about remembering who you are. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Has there been a moment when you stopped chasing and started becoming? Share your story in the comments below, or, if words are hard to find right now, simply type, "I am the mirror," as your affirmation. Let this be your sacred declaration that you are no longer waiting, you are becoming, and your light is already shifting everything. Number 5. Receiving the return. A frequency, not a fantasy. The return of the divine masculine doesn't begin with a text, a call, or an unexpected visit. It begins much earlier, long before the physical steps in. It begins in the stillness, those quiet moments when your soul pauses, when something inside you shifts without explanation. Suddenly a warmth floods your chest. A subtle calm wraps around you like a soft breeze. And for a moment, you feel him, not in the flesh, but in the energy. In a dream where he stands next to you, transformed, wordless, yet everything has changed. It's not fantasy, it's frequency. Your body begins to respond to what the mind cannot fully explain. Your breath changes pace. Your womb stirs as if remembering something it was never taught, only born knowing. This is not the start of another cycle of longing. This is not the ache of reaching or waiting. It's the moment you realize that reunion was never meant to be chased. It was meant to be allowed. And it begins when you stop striving and start aligning. Reunion doesn't demand effort, it demands embodiment. It doesn't come from proving your love. It flows when you become it. You don't summon him through desperation or hoping he returns. You become the space where he can finally find himself. When you're no longer vibrating with the frequency of loss or lack, but resting in the fullness of your own essence, you become the very frequency he is drawn to. He returns, not because you called him in words, but because you called him in vibration. Your healed energy, your inner peace, your wholeness. It becomes magnetic. You no longer need him, and that's precisely when his soul begins to need your presence. Not from dependency, but from recognition. He feels you, not as someone who is waiting, but as someone who has risen. And in that resonance, he begins to find the courage to rise too. The return is not fantasy. It's not wishful thinking. It's the reality your body knows before your eyes can see. It's the evidence felt in your breath, your chest, your pulse. You don't have to convince the universe to deliver him. You only have to become the frequency where he belongs. And that is the return, not marked by a grand entrance, but by an energetic meeting. A soul arriving home to a resonance it can finally meet. He is not returning as the man who walked away, but as the soul who finally awakened to the truth that always lived inside him. This reunion isn't born of longing or desperation. It isn't the reward for your waiting. It's the natural result of your alignment. You didn't chase him back. You became the version of you who no longer needed to. And in that sacred becoming, the universe responded. Because this connection was never a test of worth or a plea to be seen. It was always about returning to what was already written in your souls long before time began. The shift is real. The energy is undeniable. You feel it in your breath, your chest, your sleep. The field is no longer silent. It's humming with a frequency you both now recognize. He may not have said a word, but his soul has answered the call. Because reunion was never about physical return, it was about resonance. About two energies, once separated by fear and forgetting, now vibrating in harmony again. What source has joined cannot be broken. It can only be momentarily forgotten. And now, in this sacred moment, you are both remembering. So if you felt the ache, the pulse, the quiet stirrings in your heart, know this: you're not imagining it. You're experiencing the unfolding of a divine reunion that was never truly out of reach. Let this be your affirmation today. In the comments below, type, "My soul remembers what my mind once forgot." Let your voice echo into the field. If this message stirred something deep within you, like the distant memory of a home you've never seen but always felt, please share this video with others walking the same path, and don't forget to watch the next video below. It may hold the next piece of your awakening. The frequency of home is rising, and you, beloved, are already tuned in.